When love turned into loneliness, the unseen romance that broke Menglong's soul. There are stories that never make the headlines, yet they leave behind an ache that lingers long after the cameras stop rolling. Menglong's story is one of those, a haunting tale of a man who gave everything to love, only to be left with nothing but silence and regret. To the world, he was the gentle face behind many romantic dramas, a symbol of quiet strength and charm. But behind the smiles, the roles, and the applause, there's a heart slowly breaking. Not because of fame, but because of love that slipped through his fingers and left his soul hollow. Those who knew him said he loved deeply, almost painfully. When Menglong fell in love, he didn't just love with words. He loved with silence, with gestures, with every look that carried 1,000 unspoken emotions. But the same depth that made his love beautiful also made it fragile. It's said that he once loved a woman who became both his muse and his undoing, a love that began with promise but ended in shadows. No one truly knew who she was, but those close to him spoke of a woman who inspired his most emotional performances, the kind that made viewers cry without knowing why. Their love wasn't built on extravagance or attention. It grew quietly, through shared dreams, long nights of conversation, and the kind of connection that words fail to describe. To her, he was not the celebrity the world adored. He was just a man, soft-spoken and sincere, who believed love could heal everything. But the cruel truth about love is that it sometimes demands more than one heart can give. Fame became a wall between them. Rumors started to swirl, distance crept in, and the warmth that once surrounded them turned cold. Friends said Menglong changed during that time. He became quieter, more introspective. He began writing late into the night, composing songs that never saw the light of day, lyrics that spoke of lost chances and the pain of remembering someone you can never forget. There was a melancholy in his music that no one could quite explain until now, until we understood that it was his heart speaking through the notes. The world saw him smile, but few realized how heavy that smile had become. In interviews, when asked about love, he would pause for a moment too long, searching for words that wouldn't reveal too much. He spoke of love as something beautiful but dangerous, a lesson that teaches you more about loss than about forever. Those words, though poetic, were confessions disguised as wisdom, whispers from a wounded soul trying to find peace in a world that kept pulling him back into memories he couldn't escape. Behind the glamour, Menglong lived quietly, often alone. Those who visited his home said he surrounded himself with simplicity, soft light, handwritten notes, and sketches of places he had once visited with her. There was an untouched cup on the shelf, a half-written letter on his desk. Everything in his space felt frozen in time, as if he was still waiting for someone who was never coming back. Love had turned into loneliness. The same love that once made him feel alive had become the very reason he felt empty. And though he never said it directly, everyone close to him could see that he was fading. Not physically at first, but emotionally, slowly, silently. In his final months, he grew more reclusive. He turned down several projects, saying he wanted to find peace within himself. Many assumed he was simply exhausted from years in the spotlight. No one guessed that his exhaustion ran deeper than fame, that it was the kind of weariness born from heartbreak that never healed. He spent more time by the water, where he said he could hear his thoughts. It said that he loved watching sunsets, that moment when light begins to fade, when day turns into night, when everything beautiful starts to disappear. Perhaps he found comfort in that reflection, because it mirrored what he felt inside, the beauty of something ending too soon. In one of his last journal entries, he wrote, "I wish I could unlove her, but love doesn't work like that. It stays, even when you no longer do." Those words became his unintentional farewell, the last trace of the man behind the artist, behind the fame, behind the heartbreak. When news of his death broke, the world was stunned. Fans flooded social media with disbelief, their timelines filled with scenes from his dramas, music clips, and quotes that now carried a different kind of pain. The image of Yu Menglong, the man with the kind eyes and gentle voice, suddenly became a symbol of everything beautiful yet broken about love. People began revisiting his work, realizing how much of his real heart he had hidden inside his roles. On screen, he had played men who lost everything for love, who smiled even as their world crumbled. Off-screen, it seemed he had been living the same story. His death didn't just end a career. It silenced a soul that had so much left to say. Those who attended his farewell said the atmosphere felt like a dream you didn't want to wake up from. Quiet, tender, surreal. There were no grand speeches, no glittering ceremonies, just soft music, candles, and a photograph of him smiling. The same smile that once made millions of hearts flutter. But this time it hurt to look at. The woman he once loved reportedly appeared in silence, dressed in black, standing at the edge of the hall. She didn't speak. She didn't cry publicly. But witnesses said her hands trembled the whole time. And when the service ended, she stayed behind, touching his photo gently before walking away without a word. It was as if two souls had finally said goodbye, too late, too quietly. In the weeks that followed, fans began sharing letters online. Messages to Yu Menglong filled with love, grief, and gratitude. They spoke of how his characters taught them to feel, how his voice comforted them through heartbreaks, how his gentleness made the world seem softer. He might have left, but the love he gave, even in its brokenness, had already become immortal. Yu Menglong's story is not just about death. It's about love that lived even when life didn't. It's about a man who showed the world what it means to love deeply, even when it hurts. It's about the kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, but from losing the one person who made the world make sense. In the end, he became the very thing he portrayed so often, the quiet hero of a tragic love story, one whose heart gave more than it could bear. Yet, perhaps that's what makes his legacy so hauntingly beautiful. He didn't just act love. He lived it, he broke from it, and he became one with it. Maybe somewhere beyond this world, where pain no longer follows and silence feels like peace, Yu Menglong finally found her again. Not in fame or memory, but in the timeless space where souls that once loved deeply find their way back home. And perhaps that's the ending he always deserved. Not the applause, not the spotlight, but a soft reunion in the quiet after all the storms. Because for Yu Menglong, love was never about forever. It was about feeling deeply, even if it meant breaking beautifully. In the echo of his absence, one truth remains clear. He was a man who loved so much that it consumed him. And though his story ended in loneliness, his memory will forever remind us that love, even when it hurts, even when it ends, is still the most human thing we can ever give. There are some kinds of love that never really die. They only sleep inside the quiet corners of memory, waiting to be remembered. For Yu Menglong, love was not a chapter in his life. It was the whole book, written in silence, pain, and longing. The world knew him as an actor of gentle grace, the man whose eyes could tell a story even before his lips moved. But those same eyes in his final years carried something deeper, a shadow that no camera could ever fully capture. Those who saw him on set in his last projects said his performances felt too real, too raw, as if he wasn't acting anymore. He would pause between takes, lost in thought, staring at nothing. When asked if he was okay, he would smile faintly and say, "I'm just remembering." No one knew what he meant then, but later, everyone understood. He was remembering her, the love that built him and then quietly destroyed him. There was a story behind that silence. A woman who came into his life when his fame was still rising, when he still believed that love could survive anything. She wasn't from the industry, not an actress or a singer, just a quiet soul who saw the man behind the fame. They met through mutual friends, and what started as a simple friendship grew into something neither of them expected. He would talk about her sometimes, not with the excitement of a man in love, but with the reverence of someone protecting something sacred. She was, as he once described in a rare interview, the calm in my storm. But storms, no matter how calm they begin, always find a way to break. The relationship began to crumble under the weight of public eyes. Rumors spread about his co-stars, about supposed affairs, and though most were false, they poisoned what they had. She withdrew first, afraid of the noise that surrounded him. He chased after her, trying to keep their love alive, writing messages that went unanswered, leaving gifts that were never opened. The pain of loving someone who no longer looked back began to eat at him. He tried to bury himself in work. He filmed dramas filled with heartbreak, songs about loss, roles that mirrored the pain inside him. In one particularly emotional scene from a later production, he wept uncontrollably, even after the director yelled, "Cut!" The crew stood in silence, unsure whether to comfort him or let him be. It was as if, for a few minutes, Menglong had stopped being a character. He was just himself, breaking in front of everyone. At home, he lived like a ghost. Friends who visited said his apartment felt like a museum of memories. Her favorite books on the shelf, her handwriting still pinned to his mirror, her perfume lingering in the air. On his piano sat a photo of her smiling, the edges worn from being touched too often. He would sit there for hours, fingers tracing melodies that no one ever heard. Some nights he wrote letters he never sent, letters that started with, "If only you knew how much I still wait." But waiting became unbearable. He once told a close friend, "Love doesn't hurt because it ends. It hurts because it stays." That was the truth of his loneliness. He never stopped loving her. Even when she moved on, even when the world told him to forget, he couldn't. His love had no off switch, no closure. It became his shadow, following him everywhere he went. In the last year of his life, he began to disappear from public view. No more red carpets, no more interviews. Fans worried, but he assured them he was just taking time to rest. Behind that gentle statement hid the truth. He was tired of pretending, tired of acting like he was fine, tired of smiling for a world that never saw the tears behind it. There was one night, just weeks before his passing, when he was seen sitting alone by a riverbank. A passerby recognized him, sitting quietly, head bowed, watching the reflection of the moon on the water. The witness said he looked peaceful, but there was something heartbreaking in that peace, the kind that comes when a person has already said goodbye in their heart. That same night, he posted what would become his final message online. Just 5 words, "Some loves never fade away." Fans thought it was a lyric, a teaser for a new project. No one realized it was his farewell, his last confession to the world, and perhaps to her. When news of his death spread, the world stopped. Social media turned into a sea of disbelief and sorrow. People shared clips of his laughter, his songs, his words about love and life. But among the millions of tributes, one comment stood out, a quiet message from an anonymous account that read, "I wish I had stayed." Some believe it was her. Whether true or not, those words carried the weight of everything unsaid between them. At his memorial, the air felt thick with emotion. The hall was filled with flowers and soft music, one of his own compositions playing in the background, the same one he wrote for her years ago. Fans wept openly. Colleagues spoke of his kindness, his humility, his gentle spirit. But even in that room filled with love, there was a sense of unbearable loneliness, as if the man everyone came to honor had left behind more than a legacy. He had left a wound. They said she came again that night, long after everyone had gone. The staff found her sitting beside his portrait, tracing his face with trembling fingers. She whispered something they couldn't hear, then placed a white rose on the table before walking away. No one stopped her. Some stories, even in their endings, deserve silence. Menglong's story is a reminder that love, for all its beauty, can also be the most fragile thing we hold. It can build you up and break you in the same breath. He lived a life filled with light, but carried a heart full of shadows. And in the end, it was that heart that defined him. He didn't die because of fame or failure. He left because his soul had given everything it could to love, and there was nothing left to give. But even in his absence, he continues to live, in his art, his words, and in the hearts of those who understand that some loves, though they end in loneliness, remain eternal. Maybe love was never meant to save him. Maybe it was meant to make him immortal. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the noise of this world, where broken hearts finally find rest, Yu Menglong and the woman he never stopped loving have finally found each other again. Not as stars and shadows, but as two souls who finally understand that love, no matter how it ends, was always worth it. Because when love turned into loneliness for Yu Menglong, it also turned into something everlasting. A story that will never stop being felt, a memory that will never stop glowing, even in the dark.